Welcome back. Thanks for staying with us. You're watching Beyond World is One. My name is Diksha Bisla and this is World DNA. Let's get started with the headlines. Russia unleashes one of its largest attacks on Ukraine in months, firing more than 450 drones and 45 missiles. Ukrainian officials say at least 7 people killed and energy infrastructure damaged across several regions. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov says work is underway on President Putin's order to prepare proposals for a possible nuclear test. The order was in response to President Trump's announcement that US would resume testing. Azerbaijan holds massive Victory Day parade in Baku with President Ilham Aliyev joined by Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan in attendance. Israeli military pledges to bring home the remains of an officer killed more than a decade ago in Gaza after Hamas said it had recovered the body. Lieutenant Harder Golden was abducted and killed during the 2014 Gaza war. As Syria's Ahmad al-Sharaa arrives in the US to meet President Trump, video shows the Syrian president playing basketball with top US commanders. Rodrigo Paz Pereira, sworn in as the president of Bolivia. Paz's inauguration marks a historic shift after nearly 2 decades of leftist rule. Pakistan's opposition parties vow massive protests after government introduces a constitutional amendment bill before the Senate. The 27th constitutional amendment abolishes the post of Chief Justice of Pakistan and introduces the formation of a federal constitutional court. US President Donald Trump is pressing Senate Republicans to stop funneling hundreds of billions in subsidies to insurance companies under Affordable Care Act and instead send the funds directly into Americans' hands, intensifying a partisan standoff. Syria carried out preemptive operations targeting Islamic State cells ahead of President Ahmad al-Sharaa's meeting with President Donald Trump at the White House. Well, the Syrian leader arrived in the United States on Saturday for the landmark official visit, a day after Washington removed him from a terrorism blacklist. He is due to meet Trump on Monday. Now, it's the first such visit by a Syrian president since the country's independence in 1946.
This visit is certainly historic. It is perhaps the first visit by a Syrian president to the White House in over 70 or 80 years. Certainly, many topics will be discussed, starting with lifting the sanctions, opening a new chapter between the United States and Syria. We want a very strong partnership between America and Syria.
Well, ahead of the White House meeting, Foreign Minister Al-Shabani shared a video of the Syrian president playing basketball with US Brigadier General Kevin Lambert and Admiral Brad Cooper. The post was captioned, "Work hard, play harder." Now it's not clear when or where was the video shot. Al-Sharaa became Syria's leader late last year after his rebel forces ousted longtime ruler Bashar al-Assad. The interim leader met Trump for the first time in Riyadh in May. Al-Sharaa's Washington trip comes after his landmark visit to the United Nations in September, where he became the first Syrian leader in decades to address the UN General Assembly. On Thursday, Washington led a vote by the Security Council to remove UN sanctions against al-Sharaa. Formerly affiliated with the Al-Qaeda, Sharaa's group HTS was delisted as a terrorist group by the US in July. Since taking power, Syria's new leaders have sought to break from their violent past and present a more moderate image going forward. During his meeting with Trump, Sharaa is expected to seek funds for Syria, which faces significant challenges in rebuilding after 13 years of brutal civil war. He and Trump may also discuss a deal with Israel. Reports say that US plans to establish a military base near Damascus to coordinate humanitarian aid and observe developments between Syria and Israel. US envoy to Syria, Tom Barrack, has said earlier this month that Sharaa would hopefully sign an agreement to join the International Alliance Against the Islamic State. Ahead of the al-Sharaa's visit, Syrian authorities and the security forces carried out preemptive operations targeting Islamic State cells. State media reports 61 raids with 71 people arrested and explosives and weapons seized. A military spokesperson said that intelligence had intercepted information indicating the group's intent to launch new attacks, targeting both government institutions and Syrian communities. Israel's military chief, Lieutenant General Eyal Zamir, has pledged to bring home the remains of an officer who was killed in the Gaza war more than a decade ago. Well, the statement comes after reports that Hamas had pinpointed the location of his body following a search which was greenlit by Israel. Well, according to the armed forces, the army chief has met with the family of Lieutenant Hadad Golden, who was killed during the 2014 six-week war in Gaza. Israel identified on Saturday the latest hostage remains sent back from Gaza by Palestinian militants, leaving only 5 more bodies to be returned under the US-brokered truce that halted the 2-year war. Meanwhile, families and supporters of Israeli hostages held a rally in Tel Aviv, demanding the return of the remaining deceased captives still held in Hamas custody. Despite Israel receiving the remains of 23 hostages so far, the process has slowed, with Hamas citing difficulties in locating bodies which are buried under rubble in Gaza. In another development, hundreds of Palestinians and left-wing Israeli activists protested in East Jerusalem's Silvan neighborhood against Israel authorities' home demolition and eviction orders. The demonstrators held banners denouncing the demolition, with residents affirming their need for more building permits and an end to the demolition orders.
Now the occupation comes to expel us from our homes to hand them over to settlers. We are here to raise our voices to say, we reject forced displacement. By what right should we, our children, our fathers, our mothers, and our families be uprooted from our homes? We are here to raise our voices loud and clear. No to displacement, no to eviction.
Russia has launched a deadly wave of missiles and drone attacks across Ukraine, causing casualties and blackouts. As winter sets in, Russia's punishing assault has left Ukraine scrambling for resources and weapons. Take a look at this next report for more details.
Russia launches a mass attack across Ukraine. Missiles screaming into cities. Swarms of Iranian-made Shahed drones lighting up the night sky. Explosions rocked multiple regions, including Kiev, Dnipro, Kharkiv, Sumy, and Poltava. Ukrainian air defenses roared into action, but not all made it through. Ukraine claims Russia's latest aerial assault employed a combination of armed drones, cruise and hypersonic missiles, and fighter jets. Moscow used cruise missiles such as the 3M14 Caliber and hypersonic missiles like the Kh-47 M2 Kinzhal. Reports say that Russia's MiG-type aircraft scrambled into the air at least twice during the night. These are the images from Dnipro, the 4th largest city in Ukraine, where a drone strike ripped through a 9-story building while people were fast asleep. Ukraine claims that Russia used a guided aerial bomb in Kharkiv. The Russian airstrike destroyed a gas station, leaving a huge crater. Attacks forced emergency power cuts and interrupted water supplies in the northern city of Kharkiv.
The main targets of this strike were our cities, our energy infrastructure, and our people. Unfortunately, there are casualties. In Dnipro, a Russian drone struck directly at a residential building. My heartfelt condolences to all the families and loved ones. All services are engaged.
The strikes come amid Russia's intensified push across the eastern front, from Pokrovsk to Zaporizhzhia, as Moscow looks to break Ukraine's exhausted defenses. Russia is escalating attacks on energy infrastructure, damaging natural gas facilities which produce the main fuel for heating in the country and prompting power cuts in several regions. Experts say Ukraine risks heating outages ahead of winter months.
Not all traffic light sites are yet equipped with backup power cabinets, so when a power outage occurs at these locations, we ask the patrol police to manage traffic, or our team goes out with a generator, which is also quite effective. Additionally, if a prolonged outage occurs and the energy workers cannot restore power within 24 hours,
As the war enters a crucial phase, US President Donald Trump says Kiev and Moscow want to fight a bit longer, while he hoped that the 3.5-year-long war ends in the near future.
I think we agree that the war is going to end. Sometimes people have to fight it out a little bit longer, but I think we agree that the war is going to end in the not too distant future.
Hungary, on the other hand, has called out Western strategy. Prime Minister Viktor Orban delivered a cold dose of realism during his meeting with Trump.
So it's a complicated issue. We will discuss it. It requests not just 2 minutes to respond to your question, but rather than our lecture. Sorry, not to continue more. Miracle can happen.
As Putin continues his non-stop assaults, Kiev insists that this is not the time to surrender. With each new strike, the cost of resistance rises, and the question lingers: how long can Ukraine keep holding the line? Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
All right, moving on, there is a trail of destruction in southern Brazil. A powerful tornado tore through the town of Rio Bonito in Parana state, killing at least 6 people and injuring more than 400 others. Officials say the twister struck with winds up to 250 kilometers an hour, leveling homes, flipping cars and leaving what they describe as a war scene. 80% of the town is gone. Authorities warn that the death toll could rise, with several still missing and rescue teams digging through the rubble. The governor of Parana states that security forces are on high alert across the region as storms continue to threaten Brazil's southern states. Parana, Santa Catarina and Rio Grande do Sul are all under a danger alert.
In the last 30 or 40 years, we haven't seen a tornado this strong. We're talking about a level 3 tornado with winds over 250 kilometers per hour. That means it's really difficult for any house or even any commercial building to remain standing.
Images show entire neighborhoods reduced to splinters. Now it's a stark reminder of the growing fury of extreme weather sweeping through America this season. Britain's annual Festival of Remembrance brought together the royal family and national leaders in London, and for the first time, young Prince George took part. Well, the 12-year-old attended the moving tribute at the Royal Albert Hall alongside King Charles, Queen Camilla and his mother, the Princess of Wales. The audience rose as a brass band played to welcome the royal family, who took their seats in the royal box of the historic concert hall. Prince William, the heir to the throne, was not in attendance. He had just returned from the COP30 climate conference in Brazil. George is his eldest son and his second in line to the throne. Organised by the Royal British Legion, the Festival of Remembrance honours veterans and their families. The Royal Albert Hall was transformed with imagery recalling World War II, including an animated warplane projected onto the main floor, and Winston Churchill's famous words from the Battle of Britain: "Never in the field of human conflict was so much owed to so many to do so few." The evening featured readings, prayers and musical performances, among them a performance by Rod Stewart. Prime Minister Keir Starmer and his wife Victoria were also in attendance, and this year's event marked two milestones: the 80th anniversary of the end of the Second World War and 25 years since the lifting of the ban on LGBTQ+ people serving in Britain's armed forces. The royal family will gather again for the traditional Remembrance Day service, honouring all those who have given their lives in war. After a bumper October, November started with back-to-back sell-offs. Wall Street thrill ride derailed as Dow sees AI crypto bets. Crypto bear market wipes out almost entire 2025 value gain. The record longest government shutdown has markets sounding the alarm on food aid and aircraft cuts amid peak shopping and holiday season. In global markets, it was a sea of red last week. From gold to cryptos and stocks to crude, all major assets ended last week with losses. The crypto engine is sputtering, with Bitcoin and its peers enjoying a violent unwinding that shattered confidence. Bitcoin was the biggest loser, crashing 5.5% last week and briefly falling below the $100,000 mark. Brent crude prices fell over 1% to trade below $65 a barrel. The dollar and gold marked modest losses. Now shifting focus to the Asia-Pacific stock markets, only Chinese stocks closed out in the green, with gain towards the end of the week. And that comes despite weak economic data prints throughout the week, suggesting further upside is limited. Bets for Indian stocks to hit fresh record highs fell flat, with the Sensex ending the week nearly 1% lower. Japanese stocks were the biggest losers, falling from record highs. The Aussie index too closed 1.3% lower. In the Americas, the S&P 500 fell to its lowest level since October 22nd. The Wall Street benchmark has now erased $1.8 trillion over the past week. US tech stocks marked their worst week since April. Wall Street veterans warned that AI-fueled tech valuations were outpacing fundamentals. The government shutdown is also hitting investors and the economy pretty hard. US airlines cut flights as the shutdown drags on. More than 700 flights were cancelled by the four largest US airlines. Reflecting the gloom, the Canadian benchmark index fell 1.2%, reflecting a broader gloom. Well, the only exception was the Brazilian index, which closed the week with 3% gains. Across the Atlantic, the story was no different. All European benchmarks closed out last week with losses. The French CAC led the declines in the region. German DAX reflected the economic troubles in Europe's growth engine. UK's FTSE index is weighed down by the upcoming budget. The South African index too closed in the red. Now, having looked at market moves, let's now turn to the overall economic outlook. In Asia, India still remains the bright spot, with momentum indicators pointing to a healthy speed of growth. Personal income and GST tax rate cuts are already boosting consumer spending, with more positive numbers expected from a trade deal with the US. Now, on the other hand, China's growth engine, factory activity, fell to the slowest pace in 6 months and marked the worst stretch in nearly a decade. Surprisingly, exports too fell significantly despite a US truce. Beijing faces deflation risks, a recession in its real estate and falling consumer demand. Trump's trade rhetoric continues to weigh on the outlook for most of the other region countries. In the Americas, the record longest government shutdown is really hurting economic activity and throwing American lives into chaos. Public anger is rising with each passing day. Weakening business activity and a cooling job market is likely to push the Fed to cut rates once again next month. However, the central bank's worries about driving in the fog from lack of data is likely to continue. The outlook for Canada, Brazil and Argentina is still negative because of Trump's brinkmanship. In Europe, Florence or Frankfurt, every place in the region is currently a good place for the European Central Bank. However, the numbers don't paint the same picture. Europe's growth engine, Germany, is still stuck in stagnation. France is not likely to meet its budget target, with politics compelling economic disasters. UK countries continues to struggle to fill a budget black hole. The size of most economies in Europe are still below their pre-COVID levels. European countries quickly need a clear long-term strategy and less wishful thinking with full pockets. Now let's shift our focus to the world of sports, where Manchester City manager Pep Guardiola reaches a major milestone this weekend. He will take charge of his 1000th match when City face Liverpool in Sunday in the English Premier League. And this is a rivalry that's defined English football in recent years. In 999 matches across Barcelona, Bayern Munich and Manchester United, Guardiola has won 715 games, boasting a 71.57% win rate and lifted 39 trophies, underlining his status as one of football's most successful managers. The Spaniard has also lifted the Champions League trophy 3 times, changing the face of modern football with his distinctive style.
2000 press conferences. Oh, what an honor. That was the best moment. 2000 press conference, plus flash interviews. No, when I start, obviously no, but there's a joy. I enjoy every single, no, I would say I'm a liar. I didn't enjoy every single moment, but I enjoy a lot the journey, yeah. I've been nice, I've been top, I've been blessed, I would say.
Liverpool have been a tough nut for Guardiola to crack since he arrived at City in 2016. First under Jurgen Klopp and now under Arne Slot, he has only won 7 of his 24 meetings against Liverpool. The Citizens lost at home and away last season against the Reds at Slot's side, dethroned City as Premier League champions. While many of those clashes have been pivotal in title clashes, Sunday's game could determine which of the two clubs are most likely to try to chase down Arsenal.
We helped Man City to create this rivalry for the last decade. Before, I think it was United-Liverpool, I guess, no? And Arsenal also as well, and Chelsea, derbies of London. Here we have our rival was United, I think, for the history. But what happened with the Jurgen period, in our period, of course, have been the biggest, because, except maybe the first season, always we split the Premier Leagues between them and ourselves.
And Bhutan has opened its doors to the world as it proudly hosts the Global Peace Prayer Festival. The 16-day spiritual summit was launched on November 4th and is timed to celebrate the 70th birth anniversary of the country's 4th king, Jigme Singye Wangchuk. Over 150 eminent Buddhist masters from 20 countries, including Thailand, Sri Lanka and Myanmar, have already gathered in the Himalayan kingdom to offer prayers, teachings and blessings for global harmony. Organizers say the numbers are expected to rise going forward.
For me, as a Bhutanese, this kind of event or this kind of festival is very significant because it hasn't happened before. And this kind of, aspiration prayers, it happens, but we have this every year. But this time is very different and it's significant for me. Why? Because we have this different, more than 50 spiritual leaders from outside the world, and from our Bhutan who are here to have this prayer together.
A kind happening here in Bhutan, so actually having this kind of event itself is an important milestone, especially in the history of Buddhism.
The festival also coincides with a high-profile diplomatic visit. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi will travel to Thimphu on November 11th. It will be his second visit to Bhutan in 2 years. Ginkgo leaves have become the center of attention at a university in northeast China. Fallen golden leaves have been transformed into intricate installations shaped like umbrellas, chairs and stars, turning the campus pathways into a virtual autumn attraction. Take a look. And with that, it's time for us to slip into a very short break, but don't go anywhere. Coming up on the other side, Azerbaijan held a massive Victory Day parade in Baku to mark its National Day and the 5th anniversary of victory in the Second Karabakh War. All this and more coming up on the other side. Stay tuned. You're watching Beyond World is One.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
Winter has arrived under the northern lights. An EV and a radar are saving lives on the Arctic ice. On the edge of the Milky Way, 3i Atlas is on its way. We're sending a gold disk in its wake for any life form out there in a galaxy far, far away. Catch all these stories and more this week on Tech It Out, only on WION at these times.
Another deadly earthquake rocks Afghanistan. Why is a South Asian nation prone to so many quakes? Bangladesh political parties remain divided over the July Charter. Will Muhammad Yunus be able to hold elections on time in February? From Guru Nanak Jayanti celebrations in Pakistan to a spectacular sight in Varanasi on the occasion of Dev Deepavali, we will tell you all about the festivals of India. All this and much more on Inside South Asia.
As big Hollywood films fail to draw viewers to cinema halls, take a look at the box office report card of the recent months.
Message from Morgan. He's cuter than I expected.
Know why viewers are returning to the first season of Nobody Wants This.
Hi, this is Ayushmann Khurrana.
And meet Indian actor Ayushmann Khurrana. All this and much more with me, Diksha Bisla, on WION at these times.
Gaza's ceasefire holds, but no end to the misery of Gazans. In West Bank, Israeli strikes and settler attacks continue. Khamenei dares Trump, says stop interfering in Iran's matters, and doubles down on nuclear red line. Saudi Arabia to acquire American F-35, a deal that could rewrite the region's power balance.
Watch the West Asia Post with me, Radi Francis, only on WION. World is One.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch. India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide, because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION. World is One.
Welcome back. You're watching Beyond World is One. My name is Diksha Bisla. Let's start this bulletin by quickly taking a look at the headlines. Delhi's air quality continues to deteriorate as most monitoring stations record AQI levels in the severe category. A shallow layer of smog blankets the city as temperatures dip. String winds and heavy rain slash Philippines as Typhoon Fungwong reaches super typhoon status ahead of landfall.
Dito sa
Russia unleashes one of its largest attacks on Ukraine in months, firing more than 450 drones and 45 missiles. Ukrainian officials say at least 7 people have been killed and energy infrastructure damaged across several regions. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov says work is underway on President Putin's order to prepare proposals for a possible nuclear test. The order was in response to President Trump's announcement that US would resume testing. Azerbaijan holds massive Victory Day parade in Baku with President Ilham Aliyev joined by Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan in attendance. Israeli military pledges to bring home the remains of an officer killed more than a decade ago in Gaza, after Hamas said it had recovered the body. Lieutenant Hadar Goldin was abducted and killed during the 2014 Gaza war. As Syria's Ahmad al-Sharaa arrives in the US to meet President Trump, video shows the Syrian president playing basketball with top US commanders. Rodrigo Paz Pereira sworn in as the president of Bolivia. Paz's inauguration marks a historic shift after nearly 2 decades of leftist rule. In Maharashtra, a truck caught fire on the Mumbai-Pune expressway due to short circuit. The fire was extinguished without capacity. Prediction markets currently give only about a 20% chance that the Supreme Court will uphold Trump's tariff authority, as traders grow increasingly skeptical of his legal case. A massive Russian attack hit Ukraine's energy infrastructure, killing 7 people and prompting power cuts in several regions on Saturday. The strikes damaged the natural gas facilities and 2 nuclear power substations that generate heat in the country. A statement issued by the Ukrainian Air Force said that Russia launched 458 drones and 45 missiles overnight, adding that it had intercepted 406 drones and 9 missiles. In Dnipro, a Russian drone directly hit at a residential building and killed 3 people, while there was another fatality in Kharkiv. Following the strike, emergency crews were seen rescuing a dog from the rubble of a 9-story residential building in Dnipro. The attack forced emergency power cuts in the capital Kiev and in the northern city of Kharkiv. They also interrupted water supplies in Kharkiv and noticeable shortages of electricity. Ukrainian Foreign Minister Andrei Sybiga has said that Russian forces targeted energy substations that power the Khmelnytsky and Revin nuclear power plants. He further said that Russia was deliberately endangering nuclear safety in Europe. Russia's defense ministry has confirmed the strikes and said that it targeted the enterprises of the Ukrainian military-industrial complex. Experts have said that Ukraine risks heating outages ahead of the winter months after 9 massive attacks on gas infrastructure since early October. A report that the attack shut down half of Ukraine's natural gas production. Ukraine's top energy expert told a media briefing that the capital could face a technological disaster if Kiev's 2 power and heating plants went offline. He warned that it could happen if the plant stopped functioning for more than 3 days and if temperatures fall below -10 degrees Celsius. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has reiterated his call on Kiev's allies to introduce stronger sanctions against the Russian energy sector. Zelensky said that there was not enough pressure on Russia and the weak response against Moscow has emboldened the Russian aggression.
Тиску на Росію замало, і будь-які послаблення в уже існуючих форматах тиску тільки мотивують Путіна затягувати цю війну, завдавати більшої шкоди нашій країні, нашим людям. Слабкість реагування на російську наглість, саме наглість, дає мотив Росії продовжувати цю війну. Потрібно стільки санкцій, стільки.
In the meantime, Ukraine has stepped up strikes on Russian oil depots and refineries in recent months, seeking to cut off Moscow's vital energy exports and trigger fuel shortages across the country. On Friday, Ukrainian drones struck energy infrastructure in southern Russia's Volgograd region, causing power cuts. Azerbaijan held a massive Victory Day parade in Baku to mark its National Day and the 5th anniversary of the victory in Second Karabakh War. President Ilham Aliyev hosted a number of international guests, including Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan and Pakistan's Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif. Turkish and Pakistani troops also participated in the parade. Military contingents took part in the parade as trucks and missile systems rolled out on the streets of Baku. Military jets flew over trailing colors of the Azerbaijani flag. Visuals shared on social media also claim that F-17 fighter jets also appeared at the parade. Karabakh, formerly known as Nagorno-Karabakh, has been at the heart of a conflict between Azerbaijan and Armenia since the Soviet Union's collapse. Although internationally recognized as part of Azerbaijan, the mountainous region was controlled for decades by ethnic Armenian forces backed by Armenia. 2 wars in the early 1990s and again in 2020 left tens of thousands dead and displaced. Most of the Karabakh region was captured by Azerbaijan during the 44-day war in 2020. In 2023, Azerbaijan regained full control of the territory. In Tuveda, a province long known for its Druze-Bedouin coexistence, a week of sectarian violence has left over 1,000 dead, and most of them Druze, and entire communities uprooted. The fighting began in July after a Druze merchant was kidnapped on the road to Damascus. Blame fell on local Bedouins, and what followed was a spiral of kidnappings, clashes, and mass reprisals. Bedouin families say that they were taken captive by Druze militiamen, held in schools and fired upon as they tried to escape. Among the dead, 20-year-old Malak Sabei killed the day before his wedding. Before a wedding, Druze commanders denied targeting civilians, saying their fighters sheltered Bedouins and escorted others out under a truce. But witnesses and video evidence confirmed that dozens were detained in the village of Zetu, guarded at gunpoint to their homes as they burned behind them.
It is a plan of displacement. They do not want anyone else with them.
Now the human toll is staggering. Around 150,000 Druze and 70,000 Bedouins have been displaced. Most of the Druze still inside Tuveda. The Bedouins pushed into Dara and beyond. Now that was what was once a patchwork of faith and family has become a map of fear and barricades. The government in Damascus, newly emerged from Assad's fall, has launched an investigation and promised return under a 13-point roadmap backed by the US and Jordan.
What is happening in Swaida is, let's put it in the appropriate scale. If we are talking about 150,000 Druze displaced from 34 villages that are still under the control of the transitional administration forces and the tribal forces, on the other hand, we have the displacement of 25,000 from the Bedouin tribes.
But Druze leaders loyal to Sheikh Hikmat al-Hajari have rejected it, calling for self-determination and refusing contact with the state. The information minister blames militias for creating a climate of fear. Bedouin leaders say only a restored state can guarantee their safety. And in the background, Israel, encouraged by its own Druze minority, has struck Syrian government positions, claiming to protect Sueda's Druze. Turkey has issued arrest warrants for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and 36 senior officials, accusing them of genocide and war crimes in Gaza. The Istanbul Prosecutor's Office named Israel's Defense Minister, Israel Katz, National Security Minister, Itamar Ben-Gvir, and Army Chief Eyal Zamir among those who are wanted. The statement says Israel has perpetrated systematic genocide in the Strip, even targeting the Turkish-Palestinian Friendship Hospital built by Ankara, which was also bombed in March. Israel hit back. Foreign Minister Gideon Saar called the move a PR stunt by President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, accusing him of using courts to silence opponents. Now, this is the latest flashpoint in a year-long war of words between Erdogan and Netanyahu, a feud as personal as it is political. In past years, Erdogan has called Netanyahu a terrorist, a tyrant, even no different from Hitler, while Netanyahu has fired back, branding the Turkish leader a dictator who jails journalists and crushes dissent. Hamas praised Turkey's move, calling it a confirmation of the noble stance of the Turkish people and leadership. No Arab nation has gone this far. There was an arrest warrant issued by the International Criminal Court last year, but only 5 of the 22 Arab League members have actually ratified the ICC's statute. And these are Jordan, Djibouti, Comoros, Tunisia, and the State of Palestine. A fragile ceasefire still holds in Gaza under Donald Trump's peace plan, but this new legal blast from Ankara could rip open old fault lines and turn Turkey into a first country to formally brand Israel's war as genocide. Netanyahu and Erdogan, two men who have called each other every name in the book, now find themselves locked in a clash that's moved beyond diplomacy